Oh, yeah. You hear that? That is the custom Second Cup intro-outro song written by Jackson Perrin and his team of musicians in New York and mastered by his team of engineers. Thank you to everybody involved with this. Absolutely in love with it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Welcome back to Second Cup. It's me, your host, Tim Heller. The guest for this episode is my friend James Herrera. James is a filmmaker, fellow Texas State Bobcat, and co-creator/co-host of the Star Wars Stuff podcast. If you've been enjoying Second Cup, I invite you to support us in any of the following ways. First is by sharing episode links on social media and tagging @TimHellerCreative. Second is by rating, leaving reviews, and subscribing in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening and watching. Third is subscribing, liking, and commenting on our YouTube channel, Tim Heller Creative. And finally, if you'd like to support financially, you can Venmo @TimHellerCreative or reach out via email to tim@timhellercreative.com to discuss sponsoring one or several episodes. Any and all of these actions mean a ton and help boost the show's visibility. And any of the financial support is going directly into sending some gifts to my guests and hiring someone to help me manage the boatload of content I have so I can properly promote them all. Now, top off your beverage, get comfy, and enjoy this episode of Second Cup with James Herrera. Podcast mic and all of
fancy.
that.
Is that a Shure?
It is not. You know, I was looking at those because I everybody has them, and why not? And they're a beautiful mic and great company. But I have an engineer that I work with on a regular basis who's a friend of mine in New York, and he recommended the Samson Q9U.
Oh,
and he said he did a little like mic shootout, and that this was super comparable and like $300 less. And I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. And it's like a tank. I thought it was going to be, when I think Samson, I don't necessarily think like, oh my God, this is like the Ferrari of microphones. Obviously a great mic company, and they make stuff that works really well. But this thing is like, it's like 3 or 4 pounds.
Nice.
I kind of like it. I'm like, ooh.
I'll have to look into that. I have a Zoom, like the Zoom ZDM1 or whatever, and I like it. I think it's pretty good. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird after becoming a podcaster, like going online and being like, what are good microphones? You know what I mean? Like your search history is like what are good microphones?
I know everybody else is worrying about like finding like naughty material, and I'm like, I'm looking at microphones and interfaces and Star Wars stuff.
There you go. Yeah, that's me right now. Yeah, always looking at microphone and interfaces and Star Wars. A lot of Star Wars stuff. So and like I said before we had some technical difficulties, I like your shirt a lot, man. That's a good shirt. Thank you. Good shirt.
This shirt was oh my gosh. Jess and I got stranded. We had flown back from New York to surprise her mom for her birthday. And when we went to the airport again to fly back, our flights got canceled and they already had our bags. And so we were stranded. And so we took an Uber to a Walmart in DFW. And I ran in and spent about $50 on food, wine, and some PJs for us. And these are my PJs. And it was a quality purchase.
I love it. That's some good stuff.
James Herrera, aka Peaches, to probably only me now.
Whoa!
It's.
I haven't heard that.
Thank you so much for coming on.
No problem, man. No problem. Thanks for having me. I mean, I did invite myself on, and I felt kind of weird.
Yeah. So that's what I did want to talk about that because
all right.
This is so at least with my podcast.
Okay.
No shame in asking to come on the show. That's how I started it. Was I made a post saying, "Hey, if you want to talk about what you have going on, then I want to talk to you. Come on the show." And the entire first 17 episodes were people who reached out saying that they wanted to come on and chat, and I love that. And so that is, I think. Because when we were having technical difficulties, we were chatting about how you felt bad about asking to come on the show. And it's like, if you want something, go ask for it. Work for it, ask for it. And like, we're friends. Like, so you can ask to come on whatever you want.
Yeah. Okay. Now I don't feel bad. Speaking of we're friends, I've known you I met you like 11 years ago.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, man.
It's crazy.
And you've traveled the whole world pretty much since then, right? Like
I've traveled to Korea and all of Korea.
Yeah. That's for me. That's pretty much. That's the whole world.
That's the whole world.
Yeah. That's pretty great. And me, I stayed in San Marcos for like the longest time, and then I just moved to Anaheim last year. So I've been here in Anaheim for a little.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm I don't know when you can officially call yourself a Californian, so I'm just gonna just say I'm still new. I'm still new here.
Yeah, I think in New York they said you had to be there for 10 years to say you're a New Yorker.
Oof.
And then the people who are actually from New York will say,
you're
fuck
not,
off.
Yeah. It was weird because when my wife and I were moving here, everybody just kept saying, wow, everyone's trying to leave California. Why are y'all trying to go? And it was like, just shut your mouth and, just mind your business. And so, yeah. It's,
take my tax money.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, everything here is so expensive. Like, it's not even funny how expensive everything is here. But anyway.
I mean, especially coming from San Marcos.
Oh, man. I didn't realize how great
I know
San
that was a
Marcos
shock for a lot of folks. Yeah, I mean, it's a magical little place. For those listening who don't know where San Marcos is, it's where Texas State University is. It's where James and I went to college. And it's it's about 25 miles south of Austin, which used to be about 20 minutes south of Austin, and is about an hour south of Austin now because of all of 35 and everybody from California moving to Texas.
Yep. Kyle, I heard somewhere they said Kyle and Buda there between Austin and San Marcos is like one of the fastest growing areas in all of the United States. And
it's
so that's
crazy.
Why...
We're looking for homes there. And I mean, homes are just popping up in that whole stretch of 35 between like Slaughter and San Marcos. It was nothing. Yeah. And I mean, there were like little, if you went off the highway, there were little neighborhoods and stuff. But I mean, now it's all new builds. It's all these subdivisions. It's really wild. We ended up going up to like Cedar Park, Leander. And so we're just up 20 minutes, 25 minutes from downtown off of 183. And it's awesome, but it is also growing like crazy. Oh
man. Well,
it's Texas.
It all happened after I left. So
yes.
No, I saw it all happen. I saw it all happen.
Yeah, you were here for most of it.
I was here for a lot, man. Like looking back, I was like, I can't believe I was there for that long. Maybe I'm there. I'm glad I was there, but it was like, man, I can't believe I was there for that long in San Marcos.
Yeah. Well, so now that you're on this next chapter of your journey, I would love for you to just kind of tell us a little bit more about you, where you're from, what you do. I know a little bit. I'm sure I have more to learn, but I'd just love to hear like a quick sip on what your situation is.
So right now, I mean, born and raised in Texas, and went to Texas State, studied theater, and I thought I was going to be an actor. And no joke, don't. I saw y'all performing Noises Off, and I was like, okay, those are actors.
No,
yeah, I got really intimidated because y'all were killing it, and I'm like, man. Then I found out that you were younger than me, and I was like, oh man, this guy's good. This guy's really good.
I'm just gonna kick that guy in the shin.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just gonna relax, and so then I started doing other things in the theater building, and I took all the film courses, and then I met a guy named Ryan Love. And after I graduated from college, and then he and I started to make short films, and then he moved here to California, and then finally we made a feature. We made a feature film during the pandemic, which was crazy. That's a whole experience. That's a whole experience there. How we did
let's put a pin in that. I want to hear more about that later.
And then we finished. Edited. He edited, and then now. It just got accepted into the Austin Film Festival. So it was weird that our first feature film, thank you so much, but our first feature film made it into the Austin Film Festival. And it was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And I hate to say it, but I'm the kind of guy like what's like something bad's going to happen. Like they want, like, oh no, like, and he hates it when I say this, but I was like, did they watch the right movie? Like, are we sure they watched the right movie? Because I've had a situation where they were trying to get a hold of me, and then for a job, it was for a job for something else. It was for Battle Angel Alita when they filmed it in Austin, and I was trying to get on that set, and they kept calling, and I kept missing their call, and I called them back, and we're talking, and they started asking me weird questions, and I'm just like, we didn't talk about that. And they were like, oh, we got the wrong number. We're sorry. We're trying to reach this other guy. And I was like, cool. And then they stopped talking to me after that.
No.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, that was a one-off. That was a one-off. That's not going to happen every time.
And
you are meant to be at the festival.
Yeah. So yeah, we're like, okay, we're meant to be here. And then, so yeah, I'm going there in October, which isn't like October's in a couple of days, which is bizarre.
It's Saturday. It's nuts.
Saturday is October, which And so, yeah, I'm excited about that. And my wife and I, we live here in Anaheim with our dog. And I worked at Disneyland for a little bit, which
Yeah,
that
I've
is the
been
weird.
keeping up on social media. What did you do at Disneyland?
So I worked, ironically enough, I worked at Galaxy's Edge at the Star Wars area there at Galaxy's Edge at here's my
How was
coffee
that?
mug. Batu. That's where I was at. Batu. Yeah,
Amazing.
and it was awesome. You know what I mean? Like, you telling me I can go in and choose. I mean, I'm not a performer, but they said we're all performers. But I got to wear a costume, choose my like customize my costume, go onto the Millennium Falcon like all day and talk to people as if I was in Star Wars. I was like, this is great. And then I worked at the other attraction there called Rise of the Resistance, and then I was the good guy running in to save people, but then I was also the bad guy on some days capturing the people. And I was like, this is great. This is really great. But yeah, so that was nuts. And it's weird to think that I've been to Disneyland more just in this year than some people will in their entire lives, and that's kind of a weird feeling. But anyways,
would you classify you and your wife as Disney adults?
Yes.
Or more, is it only strictly because of Star Wars? Like if Galaxy's Edge wasn't a thing, would you still be going? Or...
Well, yeah, because when the first time we came to the park was back in 2019, the Galaxy's Edge had just opened up, and my wife and I went, and she thought that I was going to just be all about Star Wars. But when I walked onto the park, I was like 32, 33, you know. I was just first time ever at Disneyland, and I just fell in love with it. I was like, this is the best place in the whole world. And I fell in love with the whole park. It wasn't just Star Wars. Oh, sorry. Yeah. You hear that? There's a dog in the hallway. It's not my dog. Don't worry.
That's all right. I have a dog out there somewhere.
But no, and to answer your question, no, the whole park is just beautiful there. It's just so much fun. And I think I still would have been a Disney adult.
Yeah, what is it about the park that drew you in? I'm fascinated because, like, we went to Disney World when I was a little kid, and when we lived in Santa Barbara when I was a kid, we also went to Disneyland. Not often. I think we went once, and we grew up loving Disney. It's just been like as many families around the world. It's a staple. But I'm always interested in hearing, because I have like people who are on the periphery of like social media and stuff like that who go to the parks a lot. You go to the park a lot. What is it that drew you in and made you like kind of a Disney adult? If we're not to like put you in that little tiny box, but
I am. I'm a Disney adult. It's fine. It's weird. I have I have Mickey ears around here, and I also have BB-8 ears that I wear.
That's amazing. I'd also like to say there's a caveat with being a Disney adult nowadays, because now if you like Marvel or Star Wars, you are also a Disney adult, technically. Yes.
Yeah, people don't realize that Marvel is very Disney, and it's always funny when you tell that to people. They're like, what, Disney? I was like, yeah, don't worry about it. But I think it's just the atmosphere. I think it's going into a place, and everything else just disappears, which I don't understand how they do it. But like, you walk into the main gate, all the sound and everything just stops, and you're there in Disney, and they have the music playing, and people are walking around. You see kids happy, you see parents, excited sometimes. I've seen some really upset parents too. But I think it's just the atmosphere of it all, and just kind of sitting there and just looking at the castle, walking down Main Street, and then just I think for me it's the atmosphere and just the history of it, knowing that Disney himself was there at Disneyland. Like a lot of that stuff, like he saw that happen. So I know we're talking about Disney, but it's a great place. And there's some nights where my wife and I, because we live like 9 minutes away from the park.
Ooh, dangerous.
It's so, because there's been times where she gets home from work and she's like, what do we want to do tonight? And she's like, let's go to Disney. Let's go have dinner. And we just go to Disneyland, and we go have dinner, and we walk around, and then we come home.
Pretty dope. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It sounds kind of idyllic.
Oh yeah, idyllic, but at the same time, you get into the part where you're like, oh, let's go to this store, and then that's it. It's over. You drop like $75 on a few things, and you're like, yeah, that was an expensive trip. But
trying to find that one black kyber crystal.
Yes, she let me buy a lightsaber the other day. It was Count Dooku's lightsaber. I was so excited. I was like, I need this light. You know what I mean? It's those
Gotta
things.
have it. Gotta have it.
Gotta have it, man. And so yeah, it's crazy being here. And then plus I'm driving up to LA, which is almost the same distance as San Marcos to Austin, which a little bit longer. Way more traffic. And I'm my buddy Ryan and I and all of us, we formed a little studio, a little production company called Blind Salamander. Let me see if I can point my camera down. There you go, Blind.
Oh my gosh. I love that. And for those who don't know, the blind salamander is an endangered species indigenous to the San Marcos River. And James's shirt is a blind salamander in a tube floating the river.
Floating the San Marcos River. And that was something my wife actually came up with because we were like, we want to start a production group, but what are we going to call ourselves? And we're like, we all lived in San Marcos. We all went to Texas State. So we're like, what about Moat Pictures or something, because we were all in the theater building, you know what I mean? And so we had a lot of funny names. And finally my wife was like, what about Blind Salamander? We were like, that might actually work. And then there we go. And we're trying to get stuff going. We just shot a music video last week for somebody, and Emily Reese. I don't know if you ever knew Emily Reese. She also went to Texas State. She also
absolutely.
Nice. Yeah, she was a BFA actor as well. She shot a music video, which is coming out this Saturday. And so, yeah, we're working up here. We're trying to live that dream, achieve that goal.
Make it happen.
It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. It's what I love doing. So, yeah.
It's the best. When it's bad, it's really hard. But when it's good, it is the best thing in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what keeps you coming back.
Yep. And I just want people to know I'm not just going to Disneyland all day. I just want people to know that. That's why I threw that in.
It's the only reason you moved is so you can be like, I could work tonight, but I'm just going to go to Disney.
Just going to go to Disneyland. Walk around.
Well, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the short film, or not the short film, the feature that Blind Salamander shot that is going.
What exactly do you want to hear about it? Like the whole thing or?
Well, I mean, I just want to hear like what that process was like shooting in COVID, and then more of, I guess, kind of what you have coming up and how people can find out more, or if they want to be a part of what you guys are doing, like where can they find you? What and kind of that thing. What do you specialize in, and what kind of what's the dream gig?
Oh, well, okay. What's the dream? The dream is to retire in 2 years and just not do anything ever again.
Great.
No, that's everyone's dream, right? My buddy Ryan back in 2020 was like, let's make a movie. No one's gonna give us a movie. We have to do it ourselves. And so we were like, okay. So he and his and Laurel Topol, which Laurel, you probably know Laurel Topol. She's a little bit younger than you, actually. She's a little bit younger than you. She also went to Texas State, BFA actor and everything.
Okay.
They wrote the script, and then in October of 2020, I was still in Texas, so I had to fly to California, and then we started this trip driving to Barstow, California, filmed there for a few days, drove to Vegas, filmed there for a few days, drove to Portland, Oregon, filmed there for a few days, drove down south through San Francisco, filmed there, and then we finally got back to LA. And it was a 2-week process, and it was crazy. We were very strict with the COVID protocols. We wore face coverings every chance whenever we possibly could. We had a face covering on, checked our temperature every morning. And so that was a little bit of a challenge, and a lot of businesses were closed. And we were like, man, this kind of sucks. But yeah, the process was crazy. It was just a lot of work. Small. When I say skeleton crew, I mean I'm talking the smallest skeleton crew you'll ever. It was so small. Everybody was doing multiple things, but we did it. We shot the thing, and it was hard. But looking at the finished product, we were pretty happy with it. We were pretty like, all right. It worked. We did it. And if you follow us at Blind Salamander Films on Instagram, you can see a lot of our production stills, a lot of our behind the scenes stuff. Our website is on there, and you can go there and you can look at all the stuff that we've done.
Yep, the website's awesome.
Oh, thank you. That was a process, and it's all a thing. Just trying to get the right look, the right everything is just like ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's ever evolving, right? Especially as a creative now, you have, like you said earlier, nobody's just going to give you anything. You have to go out and make it yourself. and including a website and all of your marketing stuff, and
Including
you
a
can pay
website,
somebody to do
right?
it. But it's I feel like it's part of the fun, and part of the challenge is marketing yourself and running yourself like a business and learning what that really means, and kind of
Exactly.
what it turns in, allowing it to be not so precious, but to be this thing that can also change and grow as you change and grow and figure out more of who you are.
Oh man, exactly. And like you said, we're at that stage now where we have to do it all ourselves, and we have to find a way to make it look great. Let people go like, oh, this is cool, you know. But yeah, thanks for looking at our website. I appreciate that. And
Yeah, of course.
and so we have the website, and right now my buddy Ryan is he's working on a feature. He and I are mapping out a feature that he wants to write. I'm currently working on two ideas for a TV show as well as a feature, two separate things, and then and yeah, we're trying to get music video gigs, try to build up relationships with a lot of people here in Los Angeles, and going to Austin is gonna be a big deal because we're gonna be able to talk to other people, talk to distributors and everything like that. And it's like, man, it's weird how it's all working out and how close we could possibly be to achieving a goal that we've all had in mind since we were younger, And for me, since I was a kid, this is what I've always wanted to do. So it's just really weird that it's happening. You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, right, okay.
What is that feeling of being? Because I recently had a couple of experiences that were kind of like that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm starting to see like what's those steps that are next now are the steps that I always like kind of dreamed of achieving, and it's so close. You can like smell it, you can taste it. What does that feel like to you? Like how do you typically respond to that emotionally, physically? Like what does that feel like in James's body?
Well, like I said before, I'm always weary. I'm always like, they got the right person. Like, is that they're talking about me, right? You know what I mean? That's usually my initial. Which my buddy he hates. He's like, don't be that way. I was like, that's just the way it is. But at the same time, it's also just kind of like I wouldn't say like relief, but it's just this weird, like surreal moment. Since I was 12, I saw Jaws when I was 12 years old, and I was like, oh, this is a great movie. Then I saw the making of Jaws and how crazy that production was and how they still achieved this amazing movie, this goal. And Steven Spielberg I think he was like 26, 27 when he did this movie, which I'm 34 now. I can't even fathom that, and just seeing that whole thing and seeing how it all worked out. And it's like, that's what I want to do. I want to be that guy. I want to be that person who puts together a story, and I don't care what anyone else says. I'm going to put it together, and I want it to be good, and I want to entertain people. And so for me, that's been like my goal since I was 12. And so now 34, it's like I was a part of something that's doing that. And it's just like, it's like, wow, I mean, is this possible? Like, am I actually, it's weird. It's weird to say it. Like, I can't put it into words how it's all happening. You probably have better words than I do, but it's just surreal. It's just very surreal to be telling people this stuff since I was a kid and being like, oh, okay, maybe I wasn't just talking. Maybe I wasn't just talking, crap my whole life. Maybe I actually, might do something with myself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you aren't the type of person that has said, like, I want to do this, and then has waited for things to happen. You've gone out and done it. You've pursued it actively and been creative and creating for years.
I mean, there was a little rough patch there, but I got through it. We're not gonna
and that's the other thing though, is like the rough patches also help shape us as artists and creators, and I feel like personally, just through several different rough patches in my life, and some longer and more overarching than others, but those have also helped kind of refine me, and really refine my taste and refine really where I want to be spending my time and what I want to be putting my time towards. And so I feel like they're equally as important. I don't know. but it can make you pessimistic or more cautiously optimistic, which it has for me, I think, in a healthy sense. But
that's true. It takes me back to Star Wars when Yoda says the greatest teacher failure is. Not saying it was a failure what would happen to us, but it was like those rough times where we thought like, oh, this is just it can't, like, this is bad. This is really bad. You do learn. You do learn from that. You fail
forward. You continue to grow.
And I mean, I'm pretty sure you didn't live next door to a funeral home by yourself in Austin, Texas, but it was.
I didn't, but you did.
I did. Yes. Oh, that's a weird. It was right after college, graduated, moved to Austin, thinking things were going to work out with a certain individual. Did not work out, and I'm there. And I go out my balcony and I'm like, oh, there's a funeral home. And it wasn't across the street. Everybody always thinks, oh, across the street. Like, no, it was literally right there. Like, it was like
our neighbor. Okay.
I think the concrete from our parking lot was the same as the concrete to their parking lot. Like, it was ridiculous. And that was a rough patch. It was a very rough patch for me. And so it's always great to look back and be like, I was there. I'm here now. And it's such a weird thing how life does that to you.
Absolutely. Do you mind if I ask before we move on to, I want to hear more about your podcast, but do you mind if I ask, what do you feel like you took from that experience of living next to the funeral home and how that's kind of informed?
I mean, it wasn't just that. There was a lot of things that were,
right. Well, that funeral home period.
The funeral home period.
What do you feel like you took from that that's really propelled you forward into what you're doing now?
I took that I'm not alone. Like I wasn't alone. Like, and I'm not alone now. Like, I had good buddies of mine, Joe Lombardo and Jamie Honeycutt.
Yeah.
Who, great.
I remember that from,
yeah. They are the best. And one day Joe drove up there to visit me, which I was really shocked that he drove all the way to Austin from San Marcos, which is not a big deal, but still. And he was like, you got to get out of here, man. He's like, stop. This is not good for you. And you can move in with Jamie and I. We can. I was like, thanks, man.
Wow.
Like, and then, so then I caught myself a lot of times driving back to San Marcos on my days off, just hanging out with them. And it was a good feeling to know, like I said, I'm not alone. Like there are people out there who do care about me. And that's one thing I learned was I wasn't alone. It wasn't just me sitting in this crappy apartment, by myself in a city that had no friends there in the city and next to a funeral home. And I was really unhealthy. I smoked cigarettes. I was smoking all the time during that whole ordeal. And it was like, man, yeah, this is not good. And so then it all turned around. Then I moved to San Marcos, met Ryan, which now he and I are really, really great friends. And he's the one who directed the movie. And then I met my wife like after that. And it was like, okay, this
wow.
is, I'm not saying her whole life was going, you know what I mean? Like, she had her own thing, but for me, it was just crazy. I moved back to San Marcos, and then my buddy, she's like, hey, you want to meet my roommate? And she told me, and I was like, yeah, that'd be great. And then it was love at first sight. It was like, all right, this is great. And then we got married. So, yeah. So, yeah.
That's beautiful, James.
Weird. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, no problem.
So I want to know about this Star Wars Stuff podcast. So I am part of the Star Wars Stuff Facebook group and have been, I think you invited me when y'all first started, and I was like, yes, absolutely. I want to be part of this if James is doing this. And it was just kind of, and I'm just like a lurker. I'm in the shadows and I'm liking the memes, and I am there for the content that is being delivered. And I listened to, admittedly, I hadn't been listening to the pod. I don't know if I really listened to the podcast, but I listened to the podcast this morning, and I have like 2 or 3 podcasts that I listen to, and this is being worked into the mix because the episode that I listened to was the announcement of Andor, or it was like a couple days before Andor came out, and Jess and I have been sitting down and we'll watch all the Star Wars shows together, and I've got the Star Wars ruggable rug. I've got a little Darth Vader minion back here.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I am not at the royal status that y'all are of Star Wars fandom, but I love it so much. And so the podcast is amazing.
Oh,
It's
man,
so
thank you.
fun.
Thank you
And
so much.
it's I love that you have people from the Star Wars franchise also introducing the podcast. So freaking cool. I want to hear a couple things. We'll get into like some more like debating about Andor and some of the series and Disneyfication of Star Wars, but I want to hear how that started and how it's grown, especially because I feel like we're in this really wonderful stage of life where we're in our 30s and our friends are coming up into their 30s. And I feel like there's such a beautiful transition of self that happens, at least for me, and that I've seen in a lot of people. And if you've heard of Saturn's return in astrology, it's a big part of that. But I want to hear how y'all have taken this love of Star Wars and turned it into this little business of talking about it on a podcast and finding that passion and doing it, because you have sponsors, you have a lot of listeners, and you are getting Darth Maul to introduce your show. And like, what has that been like? Was the little kid inside of you just losing their freaking mind? And just tell me a little bit more about the genesis of it.
So, my whole life it's been Batman and Star Wars, and Batman. You were there for me when Batman: The Dark Knight Rises was coming out. It was big. It was a big deal. That was great. And then Star Wars has always also been there my whole life, and so in 2015 when The Force Awakens came out, it was like, what? I'm getting more Star Wars. Like, I'm an adult now, and this is happening. This is great. And then I went to I saw online Star Wars Celebration, which is a thing they have every couple of years, where it's people from all over the world come to a convention, and it's like Comic-Con, but just Star Wars. Anyways, in 2015, I saw a video of them watching the trailer for the first time of The Force Awakens, and you hear Chewie or home and the crowd going nuts, and I was like, I need to be there.
I just got goosebumps thinking about
it.
I saw that same video, and I was like,
yes. So I saw that video, and she was my girlfriend at the time, and not my wife, and I was like, we need to go. The next celebration, we need to go. Of course, it was in Europe, so we skipped it. Then 2017, I flew to Florida for the celebration there. Saw the 40th panel, saw Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, George Lucas. John Williams did a surprise appearance and played music. He had an orchestra there. He played Carrie Fisher had just passed away, so they played Leia's theme. And then he played the main theme, and I was just bawling because I was like, "This is the best thing."
Weeping.
And then so flash forward a few months later, they had Force Friday, which was where they would release all the toys and all the merch in the stores, and they had it at midnight. And I went there, and I wore my Last Jedi shirt. And this guy in line was like, "Oh, hey, Star Wars Celebration. Hey, David, you went to Star Wars Celebration." His friend with him was like, "Oh, yeah, I did. I was there in Florida as well." And I was like, "Oh, that's crazy. Florida. Now we're both in New Braunfels, Texas at Target. That's a cool thing." And he goes, "I took a picture of the crowd. You want to see?" And he like shows me a picture of the crowd. And I looked, and I was like, "Oh, there I'm right there." And it was just this huge picture of all these people, and you could see my wife and I there. And he and I became friends instantly. And so we would text each other, talking about Star Wars, talking about this. And then my wife finally was tired of me talking to her about Star Wars. And she was like, "You and David should start a podcast." I was like,
so you can get out of my hair.
You can stop talking to me about it, and the two of you can just talk about it. And so we did. We had lapel mics. Like, we had no idea what we were doing. We just recorded. The first episode sounds terrible because we had no idea what we were doing. But it was fun. We realized we had a good relationship. We could both talk. We had pretty good voices for podcasting. And I was like, "Hey, we can let's just keep this going." And then we started adding more people, and here we are. It's just so weird that it grew from that back in 2018, and we've been doing it since 2018. And I think what makes it fun for us is we are mostly, I say mostly because some people do talk trash, but we're mostly a very positive podcast. We love Star Wars. We're not one of those podcasts who just badmouths it like other podcasts, Star Wars podcasts do. That's how they get the most listens, is the people who just, "Man, Disney's doing this,
just shit on it."
Yeah. They shit on it, and I'm like, that's not us. We're the kind of fans who, even if it's not the best Star Wars, it's still Star Wars, and we're gonna watch it. And that's the type
And that's what I love so much just about that one episode that I listened to is that, and when I talk to people about it, whenever it comes up and whoever will entertain it, it's that it is Star Wars. We're getting to see more Star Wars and more in depth and like all of these little side stories. And it's like, it doesn't matter if the Mandalorian is a little bit cheesy sometimes, but it's like, I love it. And it's I think it's part of the charm and the little bit of the wink that some of the old series had, but it's also the new generation of it. And I don't know, I love that it's happening, and I get obsessed with everything that comes out. And
me too, man.
Andor has been a slow burn, as you guys said, and Jess and I have been trying to figure that out. We'll sit down and she's like, we were only 2 episodes in, and I said, well, I think they released the first 3 together because you're supposed to watch them back to back. I think they're laying down all the exposition. We just got to get through to the next episode. And she's like, I just don't have a reason to care yet. And then hearing you guys say basically the exact same thing on that episode, and I'm like, oh God, now we have to sit down and watch this 3rd episode because that's where it takes off. So yeah, it's a fun podcast. Anybody that's listening, and if you are even peripherally enjoying Star Wars, you should absolutely listen because it's fun, it's positive, and you guys are hilarious.
We do.
It's really like, I love that it is a lighthearted, like true Star Wars fans just shooting the shit about it.
And
so
and for me, that's been a lifelong dream to sit with people and just talk about Star Wars all day, and it's great to do that, throughout the week. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So what do you have coming up that people should keep an eye out for? What's next for the podcast? What do you want people to know about?
For the podcast, I mean, we're still, we're still just pumping these episodes out, two episodes a week. And right now we're pretty good where we are. We're pretty chill with how the podcast is going. Eventually we're gonna grow a little bit more. We're getting some funding, which is like, whoa, that's kind of
congratulations.
I didn't think that was ever gonna happen. Because at first you just do it for fun, then after a while you're kind of like, maybe, and then and then as for Blind Salamander, like I said before, we're working on things. We're getting things planned for the future. As for like projects, features, we're going to start to write, and we're going to start to get funded. And then distribution of our current film is a big thing on our mind right now. Is to get this movie distributed, off the record. I'll talk to you about that later because that's a whole thing. Because it's something I don't want to share right now. But yeah. So yeah, look. Just wait. For Blind Salamander to see if what happens with us, and because we're still pretty new to this whole thing. We're still very new to this whole thing, and we're still trying our best every day to get closer to our goal. So which is of course distribution, and here's a check, go make another movie, and then us going to make another movie. Like that's where we are now. So right now it's just all kind of chill until the end of October, whenever we get whenever the movie shows in Austin. So yeah,
that's awesome. And so what is the name of the film, and when is the Austin Film Festival?
Austin Film Festival is October 27th through November 3rd. And the schedule, I think, just came out. My buddy, Emily, the producer, she just messaged us right now while we were talking about. Oh wait, never mind. Oh, they're doing something right now. Austin's doing something right now, and they might announce the schedule later on today.
Sweet.
And the movie is called Beauty of a Blank Space. And
Beauty of a Blank Space.
Awesome. Yes. And yours truly is in there as well.
Oh yeah. You thinking that you couldn't be an actor. Here you are acting at Disney, acting in films.
Yeah.
Doing it all.
I will say I do regret not auditioning for anything at Texas State. I do regret not attempting to do something like that because I was like, man, maybe I could have, but y'all were great. Like I saw you in Noises Off. You're of course a dancer in Wild Party, and then I wasn't a part of Oklahoma. I don't know why I was not a part of Oklahoma, but that was your show, and it was great. It was awesome. And then you and I was on Hair, behind the scenes in Hair, and so it was always great to watch y'all perform. All of y'all were amazing. All of you were amazing. And
Well,
I'm not saying you were the reason,
well.
but you were one of the reasons why I was like, I'll just hang back.
No.
In case you don't know, Tim did the greatest British accent I've ever I thought you were a 35-year-old man acting in that thing. I didn't realize you were only a 20-year-old.
I was
kid, or
18 at the time.
Jeez, yeah. So I was like, oh,
and
who's this
fitting
guy?
Now that I do voiceover, right?
Yeah, look at that. See, like I said, you had it. You were amazing. You were amazing. And so yeah, but I'm thinking about it. I'm 34. I'm still young. I could still probably get into acting.
We got time.
Yeah, we got
time. So much time.
Nobody's
you want to do.
Exactly. There's no time limit. I mean, there is a time limit, but right now, life, just live it. Just have fun. Just do it.
Yeah. I mean, anything's possible. You're making money talking about Star Wars on a podcast with your best friends. So
it's the best.
James, thank you so much for doing this and reaching out to be on the show. And if anybody's listening and they want to be part of the show, there is no shame in reaching out to ask to be part of the show. It is encouraged.
Yes, please.
And anything that you want or need from me in the future, James Peaches Herrera, if you reach out without hesitation.
Peaches, man, I haven't heard that in like 10, 12 years.
I don't even know how we landed, how that became your nickname.
I remember Zito, she called me Peaches one time because of James and the Giant Peach. And then that was it. The name
and
just
that was
stuck.
The end.
And then everyone else Peaches, and I was like, all right, I guess that's me. Oh, one more thing before we go. Tim, you were in my very first short film at Texas State. And I'll always be thankful that you were in my very first short film at Texas State. So yeah, that was the Merry Christmas one we did. Very long time ago. Yeah, remember that one?
Is that still up anywhere?
Ah, geez, I'll have to look back. I could probably send you the link if I find it.
Yeah, if you find it, send me the link in the next couple weeks because then I'll post it with the episode.
Oh my gosh, that was a lot of fun. But I'll always be grateful that you said yes to be in my first short film. And if I ever do a movie and we actually have money, I will definitely call you to
call me to do whatever you guys need. I'm here.
All right, good. I'll remember. I'm gonna remember that. All right.
It is in digital writing now, permanently. Well, dude, thank you so much, and I'll include all the links to everything that you talked about and everything that we spoke about today.
Oh, thank you, man.
Everybody, go check out Blind Salamander on their website and Instagram, and the Star Wars Stuff podcast is just chef's kiss.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
James, I will talk to you soon. It's been so great to talk.
Appreciate it, man. Awesome.
Okay, so I'm in a different outfit, and James, being the wonderful filmmaker that he is back in his continuity outfit from our interview yesterday because I forgot to do Quickfire with him, which is a kind of a staple of the show. So, James, thank you so much for jumping back on to do a couple of Quickfire questions.
Oh, no problem, man. It's all good. You should have just said we're just continuing, like editing it together. I don't think anybody.
Yeah. No, we're continuing. So James, before we end the interview, I've got some quickfire questions for you.
Just leave all that in there. All right, go for it. What you got?
Okay, so quick 1-2 word answers, whatever's top of mind. All right.
All right, I'm
first
nervous.
question: what is a nickname that you were called growing up?
Peaches in college. There you go.
What was a nickname that your parents called you?
My dad would call me Jamie Toto, and my mother would just call me James, and if I was in big trouble, it was James Stephen. So when I heard James Stephen from my mother, I was like, "Oh, this is it." Yep.
Who inspires you right now?
Geez, you should have told me these were going to be pretty good, big questions. Who inspires me right now? I have a lot of inspiration. My wife being amazing every day. My good friend Ryan, being awesome every day. So yeah, and then my old man, my dad as well. So yeah.
Awesome. What is a piece of content that you can't get enough of right now? It can be a TV show, a book, podcast, whatever.
Star Wars, man. Just can't
Done.
get enough of Star Wars right now.
The
It's so
entire
good.
canon.
Yeah, all of it. And then Andor is just killing it right now. So yeah.
Yes, I'm like I mentioned yesterday, I will be catching up on all the episodes tonight. I haven't hit liftoff yet with episode 3, so Jess and I are be doing that tonight. All right, last question, and it's a big one. You can only have pizza one more time. Where from and what's on it?
Y'all are gonna judge me harshly, but a Little Caesars cheese pizza is just
That is a bold answer, and I'm here for it.
Oh, okay, good. Because I know
when he said judge, I thought you were going to say something about pineapple. I'm like, we've had some guests say pineapple before, and I'm not going to judge.
No, not pineapple. No, I've done the pineapple before, and I was like, I don't get it. I tried it. I'm not one of those guys who just knocked it. I tried it, didn't like it. But for me, growing up, Little Caesars was next to like where we lived, and so we would get Little Caesars. And I love cheese pizza, so we'd always have a nice cheese pizza just for me. And that for me,
was it a hot and ready, or was it you call it in and they make it fresh?
Sometimes it was hot and ready, but most of the time we'd call it in and get me a large cheese pizza. Ooh. And it was just the best, just the best.
Sir.
So that is my go-to pizza every time.
I love it. James, Peaches, thank you so much for doing this again. I really appreciate it. And
no problem,
I look forward to hopefully talking with you again, either on your podcast or my podcast again soon.
Oh, heck yeah. Awesome. Thank you for having me on again.
Cheers, brother. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Second Cup with my friend James Herrera. To stay up to date on happenings with James, follow him on Instagram at j.s.herrera88, on Facebook at James Herrera, and on TikTok at Oscar Isaac's Twin, one of the best handles that I've seen out of anybody. Also, be sure to check out the Blind Salamander website and Star Wars Stuff podcasts linked in the episode description below. This show is recorded and produced by Tim Heller Creative, LLC. If you enjoyed this episode or any of the others, I invite you to show support for us in any of the following ways. First is by sharing episode links on social media and tagging at Tim Heller Creative. Second is by rating and leaving reviews in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening and watching. Third is subscribing, liking, and commenting on our YouTube channel, Tim Heller Creative. And finally, if you want to support financially, you can Venmo me at Tim Heller Creative or reach out via email to tim@timhellercreative.com to discuss sponsoring one or several episodes. All funds will be used to improve the show and provide the best experience for guests and listeners alike. Tune in next time for another incredible conversation and to hopefully learn something new from a really cool person. Until then, bye.